All right. I'm going to tell you a story that would be embarrassing for me if I was still identified with myself and my thoughts. But it's a good example. So, years ago, I restored this old 1990 Honda Civic hatchback. It's not worth anything. It was just fun. It's a little toy car. I made it beautiful. It looked brand new when I was finished with it. And the day I went to pick it up from the paint shop and drive out of the shop, it felt so awesome. People were like looking at it, pointing, waving. I got all these comments. It was just, you don't see those little podunk cars very often. And and I was inflated with pride. My ego loved it. I loved the attention. And I also, at that time in my life, was a pretty angry person. But I hid that pretty well. It was pretty, stuffed in the background. Didn't come out very often. Until I'm driving this car home and somebody almost hits me. The day it is finished, after all that work, I mean, probably was working on it for a couple of years total. And it's finished. It's perfect. And I have a guy pull up behind me, almost hits me. I did not handle that well. I put in park, I leaned halfway out the window and told the guy, I dare you to hit me, see what happens. And I was ready to get out and just swing. I didn't even look at him, how big he was, what he was driving. I wasn't even thinking. All the rage, the anger, it just took over my body, to the point where I get back in my seat and I'm driving forward and my hands are shaking, my knees are shaky, that feeling of just being flooded with just a dysregulated nervous system. It was wild. I just reacted in such rage so instantly. I went from super happy, chill, I love this car, to I'm going to punch this guy in the face with a split second. Fast forward to, was it today or yesterday? I was driving really slow through a parking lot because I was looking for something. And I didn't even know there was a guy behind me. And by the time I knew there was a guy behind me, it was pretty obvious because he was laying on the horn, honking, screaming, flipping me off. He was pretty worked up. And I look in my rear view. The guy looked ready to jump out of his car and fight. Like if I would have stopped and got out, probably wouldn't have been great. He was super worked up. And I understand. I've been there. But my reaction actually surprised me. And that's kind of the point of this story, is how you don't know when something is changed until you're in a similar situation. And there's a difference. So now this time, I didn't have to tell myself, oh, calm down, he's okay, he doesn't understand. Or there was no self-talk. There wasn't trying not to be angry. I had zero response. My heart rate didn't even go up. Like, I can feel more of my body right now telling the story than I could when it happened. There was no reaction when it happened. To the point that I went a little farther and I parked because I found where I was going. I got out of the car. I smiled at the guy. Didn't help. He was in a rage. But I genuinely wasn't bothered. And I hope the best for the guy. Hopefully he calmed down with time. But before, I would have just been ready. I would have got out. I'm trained in martial arts, so I would have, it's like, yeah, I used to be so prideful about that. And I always wanted to just, like, give me an opportunity to legally hit somebody. It was, whatever it is, that's how my attitude was at the time, just being honest. Nowadays, I just don't have that fight instinct. And honestly, the lack of reaction was so surprising to me that it just made me wonder. Like, a lot of times we do have an internal change that's real, And we don't notice until we're put back in the same situation, which usually triggers us, and we're not triggered. And then you can look and think, oh, there's a difference now. This is awesome. What caused this? And here's where I want to talk about specific techniques and why they don't matter. Because I was not sitting down every day for months, thinking, meditating, visualizing myself in this situation, trying not to be angry. I was not even thinking about road rage or anybody mad or any of that stuff. It was never even a focus of mine. I wasn't even trying to get rid of anger. I wasn't even looking that direction. There was no books I read on how to drop anger and be calm. The lack of anger was a byproduct of something else. So the something else is what I want to share on here, because that's the important thing. So we can look at the whole self-help industry as like pointing to the specifics. Like work on your anger, work on your sadness, work on this, work on that, do shadow work, all the stuff, all the things that you can do, but it's so much and it's never ending because it's specific little things. So the awakening process, enlightenment, whatever people want to call it, whatever happens internally is so intense and so big and so all-encompassing that all those little things just go with it. They get worked out without working them out. They just leave. I give that example not to say, look how far I've come, look how great I am. I feel that the anger is not there anymore because of the opposite. Because I'm not thinking about myself at all. And I didn't work on it. It just fell away. Because when you kind of zoom out and get a bigger picture of truth, well, it's like a shortcut. It's easier. How do I put that in words? You get benefits, but it's not like you're getting benefits. That's the wrong way to put it. For example, I don't work on my relationships anymore. I don't work on trying to be a better person. I don't work on my parenting. The only thing I truly do, besides just living every day and being just a normal person that goes to work and comes home, is I sit and I let my body feel absolute nothingness. Some people call it God, some people call it presence. I don't know what it is, if I'm being completely honest, and I don't know why it works. And I'm not even sure what happened to me or how to put this into words. There has been significant little shifts where I've seen differences. Like my anxiety disappeared one day. I also didn't notice that until I was in a situation that would have caused anxiety and I didn't have any. It's like I keep losing things, but I'm not sure where I lost them. And then I'll notice in situations, oh, I don't have this thing anymore, like anxiety or anger, but I can't pinpoint when it disappeared because I wasn't focusing on being less angry or less anxious, if that makes sense. I realize I get on here a lot and talk about how this feels because it's so awesome, but I do also want to talk about like how to get there. It's also challenging to talk about because there's no there, and I don't think I got there, but I can see differences. So something is happening behind the scenes, internally. I do want to gear and aim some more of these future videos about really how to be, how to rest, how, because I've been talking about what it's like, the experience, the feeling, but I don't know if that's necessarily helpful to people. It did help me, but it also made me kind of mad when I would hear people talk about how great it was, and I was so stuck in my head and struggling. I would just want to know how they got there. But then sometimes if you give a technique, then you have someone stuck in doing a technique. Like I did it for years. I was convinced that I had to meditate a certain way. And then I took a lot of rabbit trails that really all ended up not doing anything for me in the long run. And then when I eventually gave everything up, and my life circumstances got so bad that I thought, oh my gosh, if I make it through this, I don't know. It was intense suffering definitely was part of the catalyst for whatever shift happened internally. But then I think other parts of it are just seeing other people talk about it gave me hope that whatever this is possible. And yeah, other people just being really honest about their process, and sometimes how ugly it is, and sometimes how long it took, was really helpful. But if you're struggling with really anything, it's usually a symptom of something bigger. And you could kind of trace every symptom back to the biggest problem of all. Us, humans. Where did we come from? Where are we going? We don't know. And since we just awoke in a world that we don't know, we're scared. And so we build all these ideas and mechanisms, and we gather information to know something, because it's really frightening to just be on a rock floating through space with no knowledge. But after years of that not working, and just adding more layers and layers and layers on top of the true self that is just peace and love with nothing added to it, it makes the human condition progressively worse, I've noticed, at least in my life. And then the ultimate fear of losing everything, I just gave into it. I just plunged into it. And the other side was nothing and everything I ever wanted. If that made any sense at all.